Good morning, everyone. Got a little something different for you today. Something I haven't done in a while. Used to be my bread and butter. Little out of practice on it. Beard's a little. Yeah. It's morning. I'm gonna get started on this thing early. Show you in the background there. Yeah, that's covered in ice, and I'm in Washington, so should have parked this thing indoors last night. I knew it was coming. Thought it was gonna be snow and then ice, but yeah, it looks like it just went straight to ice. So what are we doing today? Let me show you. We are putting in a remote start. The Compustar 7900 AS. This is the 3,000 foot range unit, LCD remote. Two-way model, so for those that don't know, two-way means that the remote will call back from, or get a call back from the car, letting you know if it started or not. Like this is a one-way remote, and it works just like your factory key fob, where it just sends one signal. You have to be in be able to see your vehicle to know that it's running. So I'm just doing a little prep work here while my subject thaws behind me. So I just want to lay out the components we've got. This Compustar system, although I never sold them when I had my shop in Minnesota, occasionally I would install them. And I've installed a couple since moving out to Washington, and I really like them. They're a nice unit. They are well put together. First Tech is actually a local company too. They have a shop or an office in Kent, Washington, which is about 25 or so miles north of me. And I actually ran into a problem with one of the other units I put together probably about 3 years ago, and they did a great job. They helped me out. I walked right in there. The engineers actually took the brain from me, went and hooked up their computer, figured out what was wrong, and of course it was something I did wrong. I just had I loaded the wrong program or did something. I put it into a confused state. So to go along with that, we're doing the iDataLink ALCA. This is like an all-in-one bypass module. And if you do newer vehicles like this one, which is a 2016 Honda Civic, automatic and everything, you will need one of these to interface with the car. So it takes the signals from this brain and then interfaces with the vehicle and lets it do all its things. This is all the stuff it does. We still have to hook up the main power harness here, the 12 volt constant, accessory ignition, all that stuff. Still have to hook those up, but it'll handle all the other signals, the trunk open, all the door sensors. This is an alarm as well. We got a little siren we'll stick underneath the hood, the antenna. Starter kill relay, which on a Civic is very important. It'll handle the key fob, the security system that's in the key, does all that. And this actually is a very easy system to install, or this is an easy vehicle to install this system in. Pretty much everything we need to hook up into is underneath the steering column, even the parking lights. So we don't have to take many plastics off. We will have to run, although there is a wire, let's see if I can show you. This wire right here does go to the hood release. I do not get a light on the dash saying that the hood is open, so I'm assuming there is no factory hood pin. So if there's no factory hood pin, we still have to run a wire out to the engine bay, which is fine because we're going to run a wire out for the siren anyways. So we'll run two wires, and when I'm hooked into the system and I'm doing my testing, I will determine whether or not it has a hood pin. If it does not have a hood pin, I'll have my wire already ran out there, and we'll use the one that comes with the little plunger style that comes with the unit. I used to have a box full of these from all the vehicles I've done because I'd use my own or a tilt switch or something because they're a lot easier to deal with, but I've since thrown those away. So I have to use the one that comes with the unit. So yeah, what I'm going to do here is, like my normal videos, I've got a little tripod now, so I'm going to probably set it up and show you some of the wiring, the prep of the harness and everything. I like to do all my harness prep outside the vehicle. It just looks cleaner when it's all said and done. I can break out the branches I need, get rid of the harness portions I don't need, and yeah, it looks a lot cleaner. It's just a lot easier to stand, here than it is to be on my knees in the car under the dash taping freaking wires up. So I use minimal tape inside the car. I mean, I use tape because I have to tape the electrical connections, but the wrap is what I'm talking about. So I don't use a lot of Tessa tape in the car because I do it all out on the bench. And I'll also try and figure out how to get you guys in the car with me, get the lighting right. This thing has like, I don't know, what is that, 2% tint on the windows. It was so dark last night moving the car around. Yeah, it was nuts. I could hear people scraping the ice off their car outside. This is what I did to get in here. I just got a little edge and gave myself enough room to see as I came in. So yeah, I'll bring you along for the journey this time, kind of show you how I do things. This won't be a tutorial, you know. If you want to take advice from what I do, that's fine. I've been doing this for since 2005 is when I did my first remote start in it. So 17 years. I lost count how many I've done over the years, and I want to say I've only had 2 that I've ever had called back. Like, you know, they've come back to me and said, "Yeah, this piece of crap, I don't want my car anymore." And of those 2, both of them put in different models because it was something they chose, and I'm like, okay, well, I've got this one I can sell you, and it's a lot better. And sorry you paid for the install twice, but it is what it is. That's what happens. And in Minnesota, these things are popular. This is not as big of a thing out here in Washington. Although, if our weather systems stay the way they are, I could see a lot more business for remote starts out here now. So anyway, I will be back, and I will get you guys in on some of the action here behind the scenes. So see you in a bit. All right, I'm back. I know I was only gone a split second here in this video, but I was actually went and ate breakfast and started to kind of get prepped a little bit. So let's see if I have a kind of a small tripod here, and I got my phone. I record these things on my phone because I don't do enough videos to actually have a camera or a special camera. So we're gonna go through. I'm gonna try and keep this all in frame. And what I do here is just organize stuff. You know, figure out what wires I can keep, which wires I need. Kind of just organize things. I'm gonna go grab some tape. So I use interior Tessa tape to manage all of this. Let's see. Oh, I got a little LED security thing. So the antenna doesn't come with one? Weird. Normally the antennas have... Oh yeah, it's got a little LED on the antenna. We're going to do that because the windows are so dark, you're not even going to see this thing. That's a mount on the outside of the car for anybody to be able to see it. So that one we're going to keep in the box. Got my siren. Got the... This is the accessories harness. Oh, what's that little thing? Huh. What is that little thing? Oh, blue thermostat port. Oh, thermistor port. Oh, neat. Onboard temperature. Let's plug that in so we don't lose it. So, get a little... these are neat. And most remote start manufacturers do this, but the plug that you're plugging into is like the 2-pin blue, but I've got 2 blue plugs here. Well, one's 3, one's 2. They really make it kind of idiot-proof. You really can't screw these up unless you try. And people do, don't get me wrong, but I mean, if you're colorblind, you're kind of SOL, but yeah, that's cool. It's got an onboard temperature. Neat. All right, so I don't really edit my videos. I kind of just take all the chunks that are on my phone, select them all, combine them into one video, and then that's what I post. I have video editing software, and I use it for like with my dash cams and stuff like that. I'll use it to chop the video up and everything. But this stuff, this is... I mean, I'm happy that you people watch it, and the very few, the 10 or so people that watch these, it's kind of neat. But I'd love to get into video editing more. I've, love to take the time. But by the time I'm done doing this and doing everything else in my house, I also work a full-time job, and, you know, my time is, I like to just veg and sit and do nothing. Um, so yeah, I'm more of a just don't. I like to sit and edit. I want to start doing it. So maybe I'll do it with this video because this is going to be boring to a lot of people. So I'll probably try and time lapse it, do a little, speed up or whatever. The parts at least where I'm not talking and explaining things. But if you want to watch the whole thing, I'll make it. I mean, this normally I budget 3 hours for an install for a remote start. And a lot of it is just the boring shit. You know, oh, let's figure out which wires I need. Let's tape this up. Let's prep harness and stuff. The fastest one I've ever done is like, it was in a Lexus C200H. It was a little hybrid Lexus. It was 3 wires to install it. Data wire, power, ground. Everything else was controlled by the module. And it was the coolest thing. And it took me like an hour total to do it. And when I pushed that button and nothing happened, I was like, oh. But it's a hybrid. So at the time, the car was charged enough where it just went into hybrid mode. All you saw was a little screen pop up out of the dash, and I'm like, oh, it's on. The remote start confirmed it was running. I'm like, huh. Took 20 seconds. All of a sudden, the engine turned on because it finally had, got the batteries to a state where it needed to charge, and the engine was there just to charge the batteries. So I was like, oh, that's the coolest damn thing ever. But the car that I thought was going to take me forever took the least amount of time. And a car like this, I think I'm going to have to tap into probably 6 or 7 wires in the car. I have to cut a couple. It takes a little bit of time. This one really, if I wasn't yakking to you folks, I'd probably be able to get it done in 2.5 hours. Not too bad. Programming and all, testing and everything like that. But I'm going to take a little more time on this because I haven't done one in a while. I want to make sure it's done right. I mean, I always make sure they're done right, but I want to make sure that this one's done especially right. And then, film it and everything. So here's what I'm looking at. I've got the list of all the wires that these things do. So I've got a green and white. This is the harness I'm dealing with right now. It's a gray. It says it's gray. All that. So we're gonna go. I want to do negative parking light output because the negative parking lights on the customer. Actually, I've got my kind of what the car does. It might be easier to pop into a positive parking lights. Nope. I like the one. I want to keep all my wires heading up to the steering column. So headlight switch, white, 12-pin plug, pin 8. That's a lot better to find than the gray positive wire in the driver's kick harness to rear. Because if I know Honda, there's more than just one gray wire down in that harness. So we need the green with white wire for our parking light. Now, lock and unlock are actually controlled by this guy, so don't need those. Don't need the status output. Don't need the rearm output. Don't need the disarm output. Don't need the horn output. Hood pin input, gray with black. We are going to use that one. We're not going to cut it off. We're going to keep it out of the harness, so gray with black. And that one is they give you, my arms aren't long enough. They give you 10 feet of wire here with this because you got to run under the hood. I like that. Okay. Now we're going through. We've got positive foot brake input. Now, I'm looking at my schematics here for what this module controls. Sometimes it provides it. And it does. It says brake status input is provided by the data, so we don't need to use that wire. Don't need negative trigger start. Don't need positive trigger start. Don't need tach, because that is also, the tachometer is what tells the car, or the remote start, that the car is actually running. Negative trigger input, all of the inputs for the trunk and the doors are all handled from this module. So we need the siren output and the starter kill output, which is blue and white and brown for the siren. So we're going to grab our blue with white wire, and we're going to grab our brown wire. And the brown one, again, is also a 10-foot wire because it's got to go under the hood. So that's always cool. Oh, come on, give me that. So these, out of this harness, I need 4 wires. So the rest of these wires we are going to cut, but we're going to cut them at somewhat of a decent length. Like, I give myself about 6 inches. That way, if I find out that, oh crap, that module doesn't work in this situation, I'm not cutting them, up here where I can't reattach them. So now that we've got that, kick those spare wires out of the way. So now I've got my blue, this is my starter kill. That one's actually going to go to one of the wires on this harness, which I got to figure out yet. Excuse me. And then the other one is going to go to ground when running status. Oh crap, I probably should have had that one. Okay, no. The other one's going to go to ignition. Ignition is where that green wire is going to go. I'm sure the blue one is going to, let's see, looking at the, yeah, blue is going to go to my starter kill output, and then this is going to go to ignition. The reason I do that is when the system is armed, this wire will be active. So then if someone tries to run the, start the car, jumper the car, you have to go to ignition to make this relay work. And what this relay does, so it's going to, and actually, honestly, you don't even need this third wire. This is gonna go into the, you're gonna put these in the starter wire. So the starter wire, you're gonna cut it in half. This half's gonna go to one part of the wire, and this one's gonna go to the other part of the wire. When you crank the car with the key, no problem. This actually stays connected. This relay, what these two do is when this relay is active, it opens the circuit, so it will not connect these two wires. It'll actually connect this wire to this wire. So essentially it's like you cut your starter wire, so the car will not crank. It just will not start. When it's off, when this relay is off, these two are naturally connected. So you don't want constant power to this, because if you get any, when this is active, when you're armed, this wire will be active, and you don't want this relay powered all the time. It'll drain your battery. So always hook these to ignition. That way, yes, this wire's armed, on. There's a ground to it, but it won't complete the circuit and open the relay and drain your battery. That's just a helpful tip to you that I learned the hard way when I had a customer call me and say, hey, my battery's dying, like in an hour. Of course, I had a weak battery and it was Minnesota, but still, that was the cause of it. When you have a, 2 amp drain on a battery, it goes pretty quick. I forget what the actual number is, but. All right, so we're going to go through here. We're going to tape our wires up. Now, the two that I've got going, the two long ones here, are going to go to, let's see, the brown and the gray with these two. I'm going to make myself a little branch just to separate those two out. But I'm not going to tape them all the way because I want them to feed through the grommet and the firewall easier. But I want them to be protected before they get there. So we're going to do about, so I'm going to put all this in the brain and everything are going to be up in the driver's kick panel. So I really don't need too much tape on these two wires. Everything else is just going to feed into the engine bay. So, and from there we'll protect it with the exterior testa tape or loom, depending on what I got and what makes sense. Makes no sense to testa tape just one wire, but loom will work. So then my other two wires I've got are my green with white, which is parking light, and then my starter kill output. Both of these are actually going to go to the same location as well, up by the ignition switch. So I'm going to start again, make my little branch out. And I'm not going to tape these all the way either because I don't know how far apart I need them yet. Although they're going to the same location, they won't. I'm going to end up trimming them, I'm sure, once I'm in the car. So there's all my input and signal wires I'm going to need. I'm going to set that aside. And then we're going to look at the main harness. This is going to carry all the large current. This is the larger harness. We've got two 30 amp fuses and a 10 amp fuse. This 10 amp is this is the positive parking light output, I believe. Yes, 12 volt light. Since we're not using this one, I am going to cut it off, and we are going to cut it above. Actually, we're going to cut it below the fuse. In case on future install, like say he buys a new car and wants to put this in a new car, and it does not have a negative input for the wiring or for the parking lights, or output for the parking lights, then I can use the positive, and I'm not having to go hunt another fuse holder down. And what I like to do with these, since they don't have the little snap together holders, I will bundle them up like this. I'm just going to wrap a piece of tape around them to hold them. Zip tie works too, but you can get caught. And then this also gives a little noise insulation, so it doesn't go banging around and slapping against stuff and rattling. So, and it makes it all soft and fuzzy. All right. So the wires we have and the wires we need for the Honda, according to my sheet here, we've got 12 volts for the positive. We got a ground, is going to go to chassis. We need a starter wire, an ignition wire, and there is not an accessory wire. It's been a while since I've done a Honda. Hold on. It does not look like there is an accessory wire, and that's fine. Some cars you don't need it. We're not going to cut it out of the harness though, in case my directions are wrong, and when I go and crack that ignition switch open, I find a accessory wire. So I'm just going to start my taping. We've got constant 12 volts for my red and red with white. Excuse me. I've got my white is my accessory. Blue is a second. It's programmable. So if we needed, some cars have two accessories, some have two ignitions. GM is popular for that. They have ignition 1, ignition 2, and then an accessory. So this can be programmed for any of those. It can be programmed as an accessory. It can be programmed as a starter, a second starter wire if you needed that. Don't run into that situation very often. A lot of maybe older Toyotas, I think, required they had two starter circuits. They both had to be powered. And if you didn't have this extra wire, you had to run a relay and to create a second starter wire. But in this case, we don't need this one. I'm still going to leave it in the harness though. And I'll probably cut it just below the here anyway. Yellow is our starter. So this one, when we get underneath the dash, I'll show you what I'm doing with this, because it's going to kind of have to interface with this thing. That actually gets become a little bit of a mess under there. Green is my 12 volt ignition, and then ground. So essentially all I need are these two reds, or red with white. I need green and yellow, and then black for the ground. The white and the blue aren't really needed. I am going to keep one of them though, the accessory wire, since I know I'm looking at this and it just doesn't seem like the paperwork. I want to say I'm going to need at least an accessory. So I'm going to cut the blue like I cut the green with white, and then if I need it later, I guess I'll have to split my harness open and do it. But that happens too sometimes. You think you don't need something according to all your paperwork, and you get into the dash and, oh, whoops, we forgot to mention that you need this other part. So I'm going to tape it up to about that point. I'm going to leave my wires kind of exposed around the fuses so I don't put too much tension on. And start over on the other side. Now some people will, wrap and cover all that, which I might do looking at it now, but it's fine the way it is. I might just tape it up though, because we are doing a security system in here as well. Might as well make your harness as secure as possible. Make it not as easy for the would-be thieves to get their hands on your wires. And you can, you want to go one step further with the security on your interior harnesses. Use exterior Tessa tape. It is pretty impenetrable. I did that on I did a starter interrupt, kind of a kill switch on let me stop here. My ground, I'm leaving out a little bit extra. I'm breaking that one out so I can attach it somewhere else because it's not going to be up at the ignition switch. And all these are running up to the ignition switch. I did that on I did a white pickup, an old square body, and I put a hidden starter kill button in it, and of course I can't tell you all about it. I want to. It's the coolest damn thing I ever thought of, but I can't share it with anybody because it kind of defeats the purpose of having a secure switch on a truck. Let's just say you definitely wouldn't think of it when you were in a hurry to try and steal a vehicle. Oh, paperwork's gonna fall. Stop. There we go. Now that's its own. Now that'll be its own own tape to peel off. Instead of having to, to get at these, I have to peel it all off. So there's that. Here's how much I left for myself at the other end, and I'll trim these as needed, or when I'm all done, I'll tape them up. But this gives me a chance if I got to go to opposite sides of the plugs. I'd strip off about that much, and then I wrap it around the cables inside the car, and I solder them. So there's that. The starter wire, I will wire these in the car, and I will tape this one in the car because I'm not sure how I'm going to use this or what I'm going to use for it. So, and then this is the antenna cable. Don't have to do anything about this or with this. It's got its own protection. I do like to get the antenna in the car, get it out of my way. Yeah, nice little plug-in that shielded and everything. It's got arrow. It's got an arrow on the plug, but there's like no matching arrow here, so I got a 50-50 shot of screwing this up. Oh, it looks like it goes this way. Hey, good, clicked. So it's a two-way antenna. Pretty neat little unit. It's got a program button on it. Has the LED. That'll be, this side faces the glass. Which is good because the windshield's not tinted, so that I'll actually be able to see that. I'm going to set that little guy off to the side. The siren, we'll do that. We'll go mount that one here first. That's easy to get out of the way, figure out where we want to put it. It'll also give me a chance to look into a nice spot to peel or fish the harness through. This is an automatic, so automatic standard key. This car had many options. You could get it push to start, automatic push to start, manual, standard key, manual. So this version that we've got is the automatic standard key. And when I say standard key, I'm talking about that. Just standard key. Just this one happens to have the buttons built into the key, the fob there, or the fob built in. So what I like to do with these, split the wires. It comes the red and the black. Black being the ground, red being the signal. So what I do is the mounting screw that I use to mount this is also my ground. So I'm going to cut this puppy down and go grab a ring terminal. And a little ring terminal here. And boy, I know you guys can't feel it there, but my garage is not heated. When I pulled my car out, the car said it was 46 degrees out here. Now I can't see my breath, so it's not that cold out here. But my back is to this iceberg of a blue Honda Civic behind me, and let me tell you, it's emitting some cold. Kind of not looking forward to going underneath that dash or pulling any plastics off. So you might be wondering why I crimped twice. These are old, and it's got you got your insulated section here, the red, blue, and the yellow for the different sizes, and then you have a non-insulated section. Well, if you peeled off any of these plastic coatings, it's now a non-insulated terminal. So what I like to do is I like to squeeze it down first with the first jaws and then go right to the non-insulated ones. And the reason I do it twice, it prevents the wire. I've never had one come out when I do that. But the first squeeze holds it in place while I try and maneuver the jaws to get get it in the back. So if anyone wonders, and if you're watching this video, you're curious enough, you probably do this on your own or have used these in the past and only crimp once and wondering what the hell I'm doing. I'm using them wrong. No, that's why I use them that way. Sure, I can buy a new pair, but I've had these for forever and they work great. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of attitude. So, all right, well, I'm going to pause you. I'm going to put you in a different position and hopefully show you where I mount this thing. All right, I am back. I was gone for a split second and I'm back. Did a couple of things, kind of got myself set up here, trying to figure out where to put stuff. I did mount let me flip this around. I did mount the siren over here on the shock tower. Got my wire there. Let me see, there you go. Ground wire. And then I'll tuck this, probably put in some loom, split this plastic open, kind of hide it to go around here, because there's a grommet down there that I will not be able to video. That's where it's gonna feed, or the wire's gonna come out. I'll bring my wires over here, make a connection, then hide everything up behind the plastic. Then I'm getting all my tools ready and everything. I turn you back around here. So I got my steering column exposed. There's only 3 screws to take off. That whole lower knee bolster, all that parts were held on with 3 screws, all those parts. And I realized when I was talking to you guys earlier that, telling you where all my wires need to go and all that. Here's your ignition harness. So the different wires here. Now these don't correspond. These colors do not match our colors on the remote start. So don't just go color for color, read your schematics. This is my gray plug I need to interface with the vehicle. I got to cut one of these wires in half and split it through the ALCA. And then up here, there's my connector for my parking lights, which I will unclip and give myself a little more room to work with. Tap my wire in and then plug it back in. So everything's kind of in this general area. I'll run my harness down here and then just come across and hide everything over in that area behind the fuse box. No one will be the wiser. I've got I did run the antenna cable. Got it up there. I actually need to give myself a little more slack now that I've got it ran. I want it to go straight up. So there's that. We're still got ice on the windshield. It's a lot chillier in here. In fact, there's some ice I broke off of the window. It's not glass, that's ice. You can see my breath now. I was telling you guys all earlier, don't, do your prep work over here first. And then, I knew where all my wires needed to go because I've done these cars before, or this car before, not this one, but a similar Honda. So I knew what it looked like. I didn't have to take it apart. I would suggest if you're doing a new car that you've never seen before, take the dash apart first. Get your access so you know where everything is, and then when you go to the bench, you can do all your wiring. I'm going to show you one thing I actually forgot. I was doing all this. I got so excited. I'm going to get going, start hooking up my wires, and I realized I didn't prep my ACA or ALCA harness. So let's do that next. So I was such a hurry and everything. I'm like, oh yeah, I got all my wires I need. I'm good to go. I'm going to set these off to the side. And we got to grab the wires we need off of this sheet. So if you've never seen one of these, this is what they look like. It's a little interface module. It's got some plugs on both sides. Program LED button. And I won't be able to show you guys how I program this because the device I use to program it is what you're watching this on, or what I'm recording this on. So I'll have to program it and then show you the results afterwards. So just when we get to that point, which won't be very long here, they bundle up their wires really nice. I can't tell you how many buckets of wires I turned in with, or just all a bunch of these little ones. They come with 2 data cables. The one we're going to use is the 2 black cables, I believe. Let me verify that so we don't throw away the wrong one. Yeah. Yep, we're using black. So black. So this will plug in. This will plug into this black port here. So let's just do that so we don't forget it and lose it. The red one we can put in our pile, or put back in the little tray here. So according to my schematics, I am going to need, out of this, multiple harnesses here. Out of, is this one purple and black? Yes. Okay. So out of this harness, I am going to need the purple with black stripe, and what this does will give us the ability to, it looks like it's for connect to ground to enable automatic relock after start. So you want to, like, if for some reason the car has to unlock to do the start, like for an alarm or factory disarm or whatever, you want to have the car relock after start. Otherwise, you got a running car with your door unlocked. Let me grab my snippers out of the car that I threw in here a little too soon. So the rest of these wires we do not need. Everything is controlled via the data port. So do that. What I like to do is plug these in to the modules so that when I'm all done, I can do my taping and kind of know where all the plugs are going to go. So on, I need white with black and white with red. So on this wire here, or this bundle, if you ever need twist ties for anything, just buy one of these. I got plenty of them. We need the white with black and the white with red. So you got 3 options here. We're going to get rid of we don't need the solid white. So again, I'm clipping these off, but I'm leaving myself extra in case. In case he ever wants, these are, universal, so they can go in pretty much any car. You want to be able to reuse them if you want to reuse it in another car. Excuse me. I also went and ate breakfast while I took my little break from steps here, so kind of digesting. Let's see. Out of this little harness, we need brown with red. That's our can high signal. And I've got the... Okay, sorry. We don't need anything out of this one. I grabbed the wrong one. This is what we need. Now we need brown with red, can high. Brown with yellow is our can low. Orange with black is our key data. And pink is ignition input. So we've got pink with black, and we got pink. Make sure you grab the pink, not the pink with black. Well, at least in this application. These other three are not used, so we will set them. And that plugs into there. All right, so there's our harness. Now, the pink wire here gets connected to the white with red. It shares its function. It needs a ignition input, and then the white with red is the ignition vehicle side. So what I like to do, since these two wires are going to cut the ignition wire at that little gray connector on the ignition, I'm going to leave these run, and what I'm going to do is connect the pink and white with red up here, so I only have to run 2 wires. So let me grab the tools to do that, which I also put in the car. All right, my soldering gun. Okay. So we'll just do this a little closer up here. And if you're wondering where I'm getting all this information, I'm looking over to my left. These are the schematics and everything. So we're going to trim down our ignition wire, get that out of here, extra. We're going to strip the end. And we're going to open up our white with red wire. Slipped there a little bit. Dangerous. Normally it doesn't peel open like a banana like that for me. It slipped. That worked out in my favor. Pick off the extra. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see this. Bring it a little closer. So we're going to take our wires we need to join, twist them together. So we got something like that. And then we're going to take our solder, which the roll I bought was a little too big. Or the size is a little too big. Got my gun here. The reason I love this gun is it gets hot fast and it shuts off. So I'm not sitting there with a hot tip all day. And we just get that wire hot, feed the solder into it. And I got a little solder cleaner here. Like that. Clean-ish. Now it remains hot for a little bit, so you gotta be kind of careful where you set it, but there we go. We got our little, got our connections made. And so, if you're curious what that looks like, so we're going, it's this pink, says to connect to white with red. So that's what we did. Take some electrical tape. This is not just black vinyl tape, it's electrical tape. It's actually Super 33, or Super 33 from 3M. If you're going to buy electrical tape, this isn't the most expensive 3M electrical tape, but it is, in my opinion, the best out of all the tapes I've used over the years, especially if you're in cold weather climate, or cold climate. It is very flexible when it's cold. Like on a day like today, it was easy to flex, tear, it sticks. I've found that other tapes, even the Super 88 that they make, isn't as good in the colder weather. And being from Minnesota and doing this in the winter in a not very well heated garage, actually kind of the temperature I'm in right now, low 50s, upper 40s. I can't see my thermometer I've got here, but I think that's about the temperature. it's just a it's a good tape to use. I haven't all the other ones either are too stiff, they don't stick properly, they don't remain flexible later on. So I like it. I'm not being paid by 3M either, unfortunately. Let's see, I should have 5 connections at that white plug according to my little spec sheet here. So let's count our wires before I tape them all the way up. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we are good. And this, I don't trim any of these. They're all going to the same location, which is cool. I like it. So I'm going to leave them, they're all pretty close to each other, so I'm going to tape almost to the end. I do leave myself some flexibility, but since I'm using this Testa tape, it will blend in with all the factory harnesses and everything under the dash. You really won't see it. And it protects it nicely, but it'll look good when it's all under there. And then this is going to kind of go by the brain as well, the brain area that I showed you earlier, behind the fuse box. So then this wire, this is just going to ground, so we're not going to run it with the other ones. We'll go ground this down by in the driver's kick area, probably next to the factory ground, or not the factory ground, the remote start ground. So I'm only going to tape a little bit of this harness. I think it looks kind of cheesy when you just run tape over one wire just to make it blend in, but single wire under there isn't going to do any cause for concern for Honda. All right, then I unplug my wires, and there's my harness is made up. I know it'll fit where I need it to fit, and I go to plug it in later. And the program on this, I wish I could show you guys. I really do. I just don't have another way to record. So this is going to program. I'm going to hook it up to my phone. I'm going to load the firmware onto it. I have an app on my phone that is for this, and a device that interfaces. And then we're going to program it in. We're going to hook it into the car. It's going to take a little bit of information from the key. We're going to unplug it from the car. We're going to plug it back into the phone, and it's going to do this. It's going to basically copy the data. It takes the data off of this, sends it to their servers. Their servers copy it, send a new code to it to make it think it's a second key. So this will actually clone the factory key. So you don't need to hide a key under the dash. You don't need to have 2 keys for programming. It actually just clones it. And then you plug this back into the car, turn the key back on. It verifies everything. You lock the doors off the factory fob. It learns the code for the remote, and then it's good. It's really slick. I've only had one that's hiccuped on me, and it was just because I did things out of order. And so very important to follow the steps on that sheet to the letter. Just how they designed it. All right, so I'm going to reposition you guys, hopefully, and get you into the car here. So be right back. Okay. And I think it was next step was to kind of show you. I showed you everything in the car. Starting to cut my harness apart. There's really no good way to get you guys in there with me. I was trying to get different angles, and I'm going to be blocking everything. And I need one of those like helmet cams or head cams there or a GoPro that I can mount to my head so you can see from my view, because I'm going to worry about doing the install correctly versus what you guys get to see. So creating content. So I will do several cut-ins here of me, as I do the steps. So I'll do the work, show you, go back, do the work, show you, that sort of thing. So while prepping to show you guys the next step, boy, this thing's out of control today. I made a boo-boo. This is not a 2016 Honda Civic. It's a 2015. And the 15 model year is this body style is from 2012 to 2015, 2016 to 2021. So when I was looking through my wiring diagrams and everything, and when 08 of 15 on every other car is the next model year. It's beyond the 6 months. but apparently not for Honda. I don't know what their cut-in is for new model year, if it's the October date range or whatever, but I looked up the VIN, it's a 2015, and what made me second guess is the schematics I'd printed out were for an 18, which should work with a 16 because it's that section of body. Anyway, the wires weren't matching up. Dad, wrong colors, the whole works. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Looked up 2015. Yep, 2015 color matches everything, and I need this extra blue wire that is programmable to be a second accessory, a second ignition, and so on. So I had to take my harness apart. I have spliced this back in, or connected this back in. This is a marine grade coupler. I chose to do this over heat shrink and solder simply because of the size of the wire and the way I wanted to tie everything up inside the harness. This is going to be a lot easier to hide. And it's just as strong a connection, just as good a connection electrically. So now I got to tape this harness back up and get back to where I was. So I went and reprinted. The good thing is these schematics that this is for the HA6-EN, or English. So the HA6 program, the wiring is the same. So I do not have to change anything on my ALCA wiring. Sweet. Everything's exactly the same. I did print out fresh ones because I was telling you about the clone programming thing. So I'll just kind of put you down here for a second. So this is the clone procedure. This is the programming procedure for that module. Now, look at all those steps. Take it out, plug it in, clone it, all that, yada yada, like I told you. Grab the new ones. Actually, much simpler. Here is the programming procedure. Key on, key off. That's it. Wait for the green light. Hit the unlock button. You're good to go. So we're back on track. This should go a lot simpler now, a lot quicker, and I'll be back when I am ready to show you the next step. Okay, I'm back, everyone. So I'm just in here. I got my tools and the floor and everything. Just kind of starting. So I always like to do the first wire with as being the constant 12 volts. That way I can use it. I can easily stick my probe in this to test grounds if I need to test a negative input. So what I do is I strip back. I don't normally strip back this much wire, but since I've got two larger gauge constant 12 volts going to this, I strip back enough so that I can wrap both around, get a nice good nice solder bead on here, and I'll just tape everything back up really well. So that's what we're doing now. I'm going to do that same process to all of these except for the starter wire. When I get to the starter wire, I will show you the process of hooking up the anti-theft device and the starter cutout and all that. So I'll be back. Okay, so let me show you where I'm at here. Got all my connections made. I'm doing the starter wire now, and my soldering job, don't judge me here. My tip all of a sudden went cold on my gun, but it locked it in, so that's all I care about. It locked the wires. It may look ugly, but she's holding. So I've got the starter wire from the remote start on the vehicle side. So this is the switch side, and this is the wire going to the starter, or wherever it goes, relay, whatever. So this is, and then this is the relay wiring. I've got the green wire going to ignition, which actually matches up with the other green wires, so that's where it's meant to go. This wire I will hook to the blue and white wire from the other harness. But I've got the two wires here, and what I'm going to do is I solder everything together here, so it's easier. It's all hung up. And then what we do is we come in here with our nippers and we cut the starter wire. So now I've got my connections made. I just tape those up and we're good to go. She looks ugly for some reason. I don't know why I can't turn this around. Weird. Oh, probably because I'm on. Nope. Don't know what's up. Well, that was strange. I couldn't flip my camera around. So yeah, that's how I normally do it. Can't remember what vehicle I did back in the day that you had to do it that way. You couldn't disconnect the starter wire. It would throw a code or do something. I forget what it was. You had to wire up the ignition or the starter kill relay that way. That's what they recommended. I'm assuming brighter minds than me figured it out the hard way and had to deal with the aftermath of doing it wrong. So after I did it that way, I was like, wow, that's actually a lot easier than dealing with freaking 2 wires, stripping them. And especially, I mean, most ignition wires that you're dealing with aren't this easy to access. I mean, that's like right there. We're barely in the car. I mean, this is great because you can tell by my videos, I'm not a slender fellow, and getting into the underside of the dash is not a treat. So yeah, I'm going to continue on doing it this way, and I suggest that anybody that does it also do it that way. It's a great, easy way to do it. Anyway, moving on. So I've got the main harness hooked up, the large cables. Next, we're going to work on this little guy here. I got to strip the wires back, or strip the insulation back on this. Hook up 5 wires there, and I got to pass a couple of wires into the engine compartment, hook a couple of grounds up. That's it. Really not much to it. I'll be back in a little bit here and show you everything all wrapped up. All right, I am back. Let me show you where we're at. Grab a light. I switched over to my headlamp, which doesn't make for very good filming because I'll blind you while I'm using it. So I just grab my other light, flip you around here. All right. So just tapped into the, I don't know if you can see that. That is the parking light wire. First I tested it, and then I hooked my wire up. So I've just kind of got it draped over. I got to feed that around, and then when I get it all fed around there, it's going to come kind of, let me see if I can get this light positioned. And come around this harness in this area here, and then I'll tap in the blue and white to this wire here, and then run everything down, and then these are the wires that are going into the hood. So yeah, we're making progress. I got all my data wires, ignition wires, all that stuff hooked up, and large cables hooked up, and I got hooked ground up underneath there, which I'll probably do before I run everything under the hood. And then we'll just do the under the hood, programming, testing, then we're good. I noticed I was reading through the schematics here, or the instructions. It's actually just for the programming side of it. And this unit does not come programmed for tach. I'm used to units doing that, and it's set to tackless voltage sense. We're gonna try it first. We're gonna see how well it starts. I like to use the tach just because then the unit knows for sure. Some vehicles do not kick their alternator on right away. So I don't remember Honda's what they do. So I know my Nissan doesn't kick the alternator in, like bumps it up to 14 unless the ECM says to. So if it's a fresh charge and everything, it usually doesn't kick it on. So may have to go through the programming steps on that, which you do with the key fob. It's a, stand on your head, press this button, spin around 3 times, you're good. Also, to note, I did not know this before, and I didn't buy this, my customer bought it. I did recommend it to him though. This unit, this particular one, the 7900 AS, is not compatible with manual transmissions. So it's a good thing the Civic is an automatic. It does not have the capability of doing a manual transmission. So if you are looking to do a remote start in a manual transmission, which it can be done safely, as long as you follow all the steps and do it right, not try and bypass crap. I've done, I forgot how many, a dozen or so or more manual transmissions, and they're very doable. A couple extra steps, a couple extra wires, not a problem to do. Very safe. But this particular model will not work. So just check that before you buy any remote start. They're not all compatible with a manual transmission. All right, so I'm going to find, I'm going to finish up what I just told you I was going to do, and then I will be back. I got to find, I thought there would be a simple grommet, an extra one, because it's no clutch, it's an automatic. Doesn't look like there is. So I'm going to have to fish through the grommet. I've got a tool that I love and I hate. Let me show you. This. Let me show you what it does. This is a cheap and expensive tool. So it's got a hole like that, and it's got a punch like this. It goes through grommets. Second install I used this on from after I got it. I went through the grommet in a Jeep something, Wrangler, Liberty, something like that, and I cut a wire in the grommet, and it was an airbag wire, airbag sensor wire, and their airbag light was on when they brought me the car, but it was for something else. Like we knew what it was for. I asked them, they're like, yeah, that light's on. We know there's a sensor out. Okay, good. Then they fixed that one, and they're like, oh no, that light wasn't on. It was some other light. Brought it to the dealership. Dealer's like, yeah, there's a wire pushed through here in this grommet, and there's a cut wire in this grommet. So we think whoever put the remote start in did the damage, and they were 100% correct. I snipped it, didn't notice it. I went to the dealership, talked to the service guy, and they cut me a deal on the labor. They were able to fix it. I made, I think, $5 on that install. So, word to the wise, great tool. Be careful when you use it, because how you use it, you stick it through the grommet, then you feed your wires through, and then you pull it back out, and it leaves the wires behind. Now, in what I have to do is I'll feed the wires through, and then I got to cut them on this side and then resolder them because of how this tool works, but because I don't have access from the front side. Ideal situation is to stick this through from the engine bay side, feed my wires up, and then just slide them off, and you don't have to cut anything. But yeah, little sidebar here, side note on that tool. Just be careful when you use it. All right, I will be back and with an update. Okay, I'm back. About to do some testing. Let me show you where we're at. I've got the harness tucked underneath this plastic here. I got the loom on there. Let me see if I can, yeah, there we go, throw some light. Siren, just all hidden. I've got this just kind of sitting up here for now. Got to find out if it's got a hood pin switch, so we're going to close the hood and we'll just close it for programming purposes. Grab that stuff. I've got my wires in here. I haven't tied. I'll tie all this stuff up when I'm all done. I got my ground here. I removed the OBD2 connector before I put that screw in there, and then I verified that it's not anywhere close to any of the wiring coming off the plug, so we're good. Got my antenna ran. That's right here. I believe I've got everything hooked up. So now we test. So, all right. I've got to take I got to use this phone to program. Let me grab my tool here. I'll show you what I've got. In my test cables drawer, test equipment drawer here. So I got this little doodad. It will plug into my phone, and then This end plugs into the OBD2, which provides me power with this socket here, because it needs power. And then I plug the other cable end into this, which is this piece right here. So yeah, I'll get in the under the car, I'll get everything hooked up and do my programming, and hopefully it works. I'll be back when it's all hooked up, and I'll show you all the different features and everything, and I'll tie all my wires up and I'll show you what it all looks like. So be back. Okay, success. I ended up having my mobile programmer didn't work. Like, it wasn't registering on the USB, so I had to go find my one I hooked up to my computer that I haven't used in probably 8 years. I had to update my freaking computer, the whole works. It download the app, desktop thing, but I programmed it and it all works. Let me show you what we got going on here. Here's the key fob. We've got lock, and we've got unlock. Plus, you've got OEM controls. So OEM will control it. We'll lock it. Actually, we don't even have to lock it. Press and hold the key for 2.5 seconds. And it's gonna give us a little now that's with the auto sense, so that's the auto tach sensing. I like it. It works with this car, so I'm not going to change it. I'm going to leave it how it's set from the OEM. We always have the option to go in if there's, if ever, forever, whatever reason, battery gets low, whatever, we can go flip it to tach. I am going to leave it for this. So, hood pin, there is a factory hood pin, so I got to deal with that wire underneath the hood. I'll just tie it up, tape it up, and then it'll just be there forever. Or you know what? I'm going to cut it on this side, and I'm going to pull it through so it's just one wire going into the hood. That's what I'm going to do. All right, so take over. If you guys have ever done this before, I'm just going to flip you around. So we've got, you just unlock. I still haven't cleaned up everything yet, but switch hands here. You put the key in, turn a couple clicks, then we press the brake. That's it. You are now taken over. Yeah, not much else to it. That's the remote start. I'm gonna shut it off though, because they are low on gas. So, give me the key. Oh, there we go. You gotta push in on this one. Yeah, so that's remote start. I gotta tie up my wires and vacuum up the mess that I made in the car. Take care of that wire under the hood. Yeah, and then the customer already messaged me and wondered how it was going, so I said, come on over, I'm just finishing up. So he's on his way to come pick it up, and we'll have another happy customer and the person in a warm car. The ice is almost all melted off of this thing already. I'm going to show you. So still left. It was funny, there's a circle right there. That was where the dome light was. The dome light on the inside the car was warming up. Just there was a little circle. The ice was probably about that thick on the car, and it just had melted a little circle on the top. So, well, it was funny. Funny to me, anyways. All right. Well, thanks for watching again. Sorry if I bored you. I'm gonna figure out a way to do this so that y'all can watch me, do the work and everything. If you do have questions about remote starts, feel free to leave them in the comments. I have started to get notifications now as when I get comments, so I got that all figured out. Yeah, appreciate the support, and we'll see you next video.